health. Chris Hilton, who has not been healthy very often, is down again with an ankle sprain. Not a high ankle sprain, they announced. It seems like he was kind of in line to be that number 3. He's out. With him being out, who replaces him? I mean, in 11-11s, they had Xavier Thomas, but maybe Aaron Anderson. We don't know what the personnel was on that 3-yard touchdown jet sweep that he gave to Xavier Thomas. But in conversations with Kuhn, he was talking about how they were throwing balls to Xavier Thomas like on fade routes, and he was going up at high pointing balls, which I think is a little different than Aaron Anderson. They're not the same player. What he was explaining. So, DJ Chester was hurt, but I feel like that's kind of nothing, right? I think he's gonna be back.
They got some lower.
He's got some
belly issues.
Yeah, a little
I'll tag team the Xavier Thomas thing too as well. You got to remember, there's 2 things that when I think about him and I think about Aaron Anderson as a player as well. What you think about is like, oh, they play the game a lot alike. They do a lot of the same things, right? But you got to remember, one was already at this school, the other one was not. One has a ton of SEC experience. The other one on the field does not. I would imagine that Xavier Thomas at this point has the upper hand on Aaron Anderson in this situation.
I agree. And here's the other thing I want to talk about is like when you talk about the 2 deep depth chart, you're looking at this and you're saying, oh, who's going to start, who's not. The starters are just a formality, right? You're going to be the first people on the field, but based on how the game is going and the flow of the game is going, and let's say Major Burns is the star, right? He's going to start off as a star. And then Toviano, it seems like he's the second team star player, right? That's kind of his position. If the game starts and after the 3rd drive, Toviano is the one making all the plays and he's out there, he's going to be the guy, right? So, it's like basketball. The 6th man sometimes plays more than the starters. Sometimes it's a formality. So that's why the 2 deep the depth chart is so important. And these guys being treated as starters, especially on the defensive side of the ball, in my mind, is important. I feel like we've kind of figured that part out right now. Now, you don't want many injuries on that side of the football, especially up front. But I mean, the reports coming out of practice are good. Brian Kelly came out and had a really nice presser. We have some quotes and we have some video
clips
from him. What is something that you saw or that you heard or that you have read that either excites you or worries you this late in practice?
Yeah, I want to touch on, before you touch on the Lloyd, I want to touch on the depth part a little bit as well. Now, don't get me wrong. Any team and any coach in any situation would love to have every position on the field that's 3 to 4 deep and people that they feel comfortable putting out there. That's not really really a thing. And at the same time, think, at the end of the year, usually the best teams are usually the ones that have stayed healthy a ton. 100%. Because guess what? You can't do, even if we are 3 or 4 deep. There's only so many reps that can go around in practice. So even those guys that we have that are really good, they're not getting reps throughout the year the way they should. So they're still not progressing the way they should. So is it great to be 3 or 4 deep everywhere? Yeah, because you just feel like when somebody goes down, it's easier to get back up and somebody's inevitably going to go down. But at the end of the day, you need the guys that are penciled in as ones to stay healthy. And the more you can get those guys to do that, the better chance you got of being good as a team, because they're getting all the reps, right? And from week to week, they're getting all the reps, they're getting all the experience, they're getting all of this stuff. So when one of them goes down, it's going to stun you a little bit, and I don't care how talented that 2 or that 3 or whatever is. So you got to think of it that way. Yeah, it's great to have the depth. Everybody wants the depth, but you still name ones for a reason. You need those guys to stay healthy.
No doubt. And I think you're talking about that. I think the emergence of Jalen Lee at defensive tackle. He was hurt the first week of practice, but I think he's shown a lot enough to where there was kind of a debate early on. Is he going to be a starter? He's not going to start right away. But having a guy like that you feel comfortable starting as another defensive tackle, as a number 3 guy, to me is a huge thing, because now that gives you rotation, that helps you with depth, that helps you with keeping people fresh. To me that's extremely important. Lloyd, what do you got?
I am excited. Coach Brian Kelly talked about this a little bit. But the way that they're able to manufacture pressure, manufacture packages on the defensive side with Blake Baker, where they worked on a 4-3, which is called the Buffalo package. Buffalo.
Crazy how that's what today's ball is. That a traditional 4-3.
Yeah, it used to be a
is
base
now
defense.
The big Buffalo package
Yeah.
thing. That's crazy.
But
that used to be pretty standard.
Yeah,
That
was.
Yeah.
So you have Weeks coming in for Jordan Allen to make it more of a 4-3 look. I love all of these packages that they're putting in to be able to, because the sum of the parts of the LSU defense isn't 5 stars everywhere. He's manufacturing ways to make it viable, and I think what he's doing on the defensive end is going to turn some heads, and it obviously will come to fruition in week 1, it'll be for good or bad.
Do we know if he's going to be on the sideline or in the
I
in
hope
the box?
so. Put a fucking shoulder pads and a helmet.
Who?
Blake Baker.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think just by the sounds of it, for what he wants to do, and honestly what this LSU defense needs, it feels like he needs to be on the side.
I agree.
Because there is so many moving parts, because he's got so many guys he's trying to fit in, it's hard to be able to communicate to all these guys in a timely fashion, if you will, from the box. I hope he's going to be on the sideline, because it sounds like there's just a lot that's going to have to be moving, and it's not impossible to do. It's just hard I think it's harder to do it from up top.
Open-ended question. With the unlimited coaches and roles now that college football has instilled, does that have an effect on how many people can be on the field?
Yeah, I'm sure there's still a limit.
There has to be, right?
Yeah,
I don't think that everybody can be on the field or on the sideline, especially. I know they haven't really come out with any rules, but if there was rules that were maybe lax, especially with the whole Connor Stallions things last year, like they're gonna, if there's rules in place, they're gonna make sure
you can't just you can't just have any. Yeah, there's rules. There's 100% rules.
And look, sometimes there's rules.
You coach for Western Michigan.
There's rules, but no rules. You know, like, oh, okay, we get it. Everybody does it. It's not a big deal. And then Connor Stallions ruins it for everybody. One person ruins it for everyone. Now they're like, oh, this is the rules. No go. Can't have this happen again.
It's a chain link fence.
NCAA is already getting hammered.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna have to at least do something for the good of the game instead of just crushing the game. So yeah, I imagine there is a limit. On
there's always been rules. Like this, let's not get that. There's been rules.
Yeah, but I would imagine Sloan will be on the field. Do you think?
He might be in the press box, man.
I think Sloan is in the press box. I think Cortez Hankton's on the field.
Yep. Yeah. That's how it was last year.
I think Hankton's on the field because he's got to be around the receivers. Because, look, there's a lot of new guys that are going to be having roles there. I would imagine same thing that Blake Baker's going to do. Hankton's going to want to do is have his hands on him. Hey, this is what you want to do. This is where you need to be. What did you see? This is what you need to do. This is the adjustment. Joe Sloan, I think, has got a little more confidence in Nuss understanding where he needs to be and what he needs to do.
He's also got one guy to talk to, obviously.
Exactly.
Health willing, that's the only thing, too. But you got to think about it. Like, the reason why I said Blake, I think should be on the sideline is simply because they got so many guys that are going to be moving out when it comes to the D-line and that linebacking core, and obviously the secondary as well, just with the packages and stuff that they want to do. And Blake's the new guy. Blake's the one putting it in. But the other side of it is those two guys have been working together. They've been here. If we had to point at one group offensively who's going to have a lot of movement and who's going to have a lot of guys in and out, we'd all say it's what? It's very easy. Very easy. It's the receivers. So I would imagine that the quote-unquote receivers coach will be on the sideline making sure that he's got direct communication with the offensive coordinator who's up in the box, and he's able to make these moves and have these conversations and not have that guy have to do it. And there's only one phone on the sideline that you can use. You feel what I'm saying?
So Mikie knows all about that.
Yeah, don't say hello. This ain't a fucking telephone.
Hey, how are you?
Right. Hello. Don't say hello to me, son. Get the call right.
Yeah. So, that's what I would think.
And I think he was on the sidelines for Missouri also.
Who was, Hankton?
No,
Blake Baker.
Okay, yeah. That I don't know. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, I mean, it just to me that makes the most sense.
Yeah, he was.
Right. That makes that to me that just the way the flow of the game goes and what he's trying to do, it just makes the most sense for him being on the sidelines.
And we've seen people do both. You know, Bo Pelini was on the sideline guy, but Chavis was not. He was in the box guy.
Kirby Smart's
an
on the field guy.
Yeah, there's ways of doing both. Yeah, there's ways of doing both, but you know.
Yeah, I think, and just because of what Baker's brought so far in terms of energy, effort, all of that stuff, like feels like it's just only right that he would be on the sidelines to be with the fellas.
Yeah, I don't think when they pay you 2.5, I don't think they pay you to be down there just to be with the fellas.
Rah-rah.
You're no longer the rah-rah.
You're not just a motivator anymore.
Sorry, Lloyd. I don't mean to break that to you, but you're not paying.
Well, you're wrong because he's going to be on the sidelines hyping people up.
That's not why.
Brian Polian was on the sidelines. He did a great job
to be with the fellas. Apparently, that's what you think.
That's all he wants to do is be with the fellas.
Still ain't seen a gold hat.
Did Brian Kelly say anything that concerns you, or did that made you overly like in his pressers or any of the clips that he said or any of the interviews that he had about the progression of players or kind of plans of players? He was pretty vague in a lot of the stuff that he said. He didn't really point out too much that we don't really know.
I will play this clip. It's about something that we've talked about a little bit with Harold Perkins and the Green Dot, and he spoke on it a little bit. So I think that was interesting just because we had that conversation on Friday, and it is something that I do feel like could be a potential hack for the LSU defense because, like we've said, there's multiple coaches that wanted to be able to have 3 green dots on defense, and now LSU essentially has 2, with Greg Penn being able to make the calls, now Harold Perkins wearing the dot. So here is Brian Kelly talking on this situation a little bit.
Well, he's a green dot, so we're just, because we're going into a scrimmage today, we use that period of time to kind of get him up to speed on some of the communication because we hadn't done a lot of work with him with a green dot. We have been using Greg Penn quite a bit. But Greg could come off the field at some time, in some of our packages, and so we wanted to make sure we had another guy. Greg knows all the calls, so it was really just trying to get him up to speed on some of the calls with the green dot, and he gets split out if we go to a spread to his side in a rugby punt. So it won't be something that we do all the time. It will be rugby punt to his side. So it will be a specific. He won't be out there all the time. All right, thank you.
With the little grin on his face.
Yeah, he was like, don't take this too far.
Yeah,
I said split out. Don't take this too far. He's not going to be out there all the time.
How we feel on the offense?
So the one thing that stuck out to me when I was going through his notes and everything that he said about the offense is I truly think that – now, don't get me wrong. This has nothing – they do. There's young guys behind them. But there's also young guys in that quarterback room. So I think he feels like, hey, we need to be able to – when we see guys struggling – because of the caliber of competition you play in this league, when we see guys struggling up front, we have to be able to chip and help out and get on it quick and not just say, hey, it's the SEC, go deal with James Pierce Jr. for the rest of the game. Good luck, bro. That's not going to be good for you. That's not going to be fun.
Right.
And I think he's worried about, I would like to, more so than regular, I need to keep Nussmeier as upright as possible because the better I can do that, the better this offense will run, and we won't have to put in someone who's not experienced in this offense and or experienced at football at this level in there. I think he's worried about that room, which it makes sense.
When you say he's worried about that room, is he worried about if Nussmeier gets hurt?
Yeah.
Or not Nussmeier in general?
No, not Nussmeier in general. If he's hurt. If Nussmeier can't play, what's behind him is not there's 2 things. One of them is experienced in this league, has never played a down in this offense. The other ones are neither. They haven't played a down in this offense, and they're not experienced in this league. That's hard to put in at this point of the season where let's be honest, this is a very important season in Brian Kelly's career. There's 12 teams that's making it in, and he's won 10 games 2 years in a row in his first 2 years here. Guess what he's expected to at least win by, let's be honest, the faithful here.
Yeah.
10 games at least.
They're expecting to win 10 regular season games.
10 games at least. So 10 games at least puts you in. So to not be a top 12 team is going to put so much hot on his plate. And I don't think that that's where he wants to be at the end of this year. So I think he's worried about that position because we don't necessarily have experienced depth that I think at this point in the year he's comfortable with having out there.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think that, you see some teams that have the embarrassment of riches on the offensive side, like on the quarterback position. I think LSU's had that the last couple years. I think they're going to continue to have that. Now, everything goes the way everybody expects it to go, and he doesn't get – and Nuss plays well, doesn't get hurt, God forbid, and he just does what he needs to do. I think by the middle of the year, I think those younger guys are going to make those adjustments, but it's different when you're on the field. Right. It's different when you're playing. It's different when it speeds up. I understand all of that, and I think that, it makes sense, right? Like, that is a worry because it's not something that
it's talented.
happens, but, like, your backup quarterbacks are